I don't know why my orca did this to me. I love him more than myself.
This is not fiction. What you are about to hear is a true story witnessed by hundreds, documented in detail, and remembered as one of the darkest days in marine park history. The Florida sun blazed over SeaWorld Orlando, turning the pool into a sheet of glittering blue. Families packed the stands, children laughing, cameras ready. On the platform stood Brancheau, a veteran trainer with more than 15 years of experience. Beside her loomed Tilikum, the largest orca in captivity, a 12,000-pound predator draped in black and white beauty. To the audience, it was a scene of wonder. A trainer and her orca bonded in perfect harmony. But beneath the calm surface, something was shifting. In a single, shocking moment, the joy of the show would collapse into chaos. Whistles would scream, the water would erupt, and the truth about these apex predators would be laid bare for the world to see. This is the real account of that day. And once you hear it, you will never look at marine shows the same way again. You're watching Life Documentary. Subscribe now and stay until the end, because this story is as real as it is unforgettable. Florida sunlight poured down in waves of gold, bouncing off the glassy surface of SeaWorld Orlando's main pool. The air carried the salt of seawater mixed with popcorn, the chorus of children's laughter, and the cries of seabirds wheeling above. It was February 24th, 2010. Just another flawless day on the park's calendar of endless shows. Families filed into the Dine with Shamu Stadium, trays of food in hand, their chatter blending with the upbeat music floating through the speakers. Cameras clicked, eager to capture moments they believed would be nothing but joy. At center stage stood Brancheau, the park's star trainer. At 40 years old, she carried herself with the calm confidence born of years of discipline. Her wetsuit shimmered beneath the midday sun, droplets from the last performance still clinging like tiny crystals to the crowd. She was the perfect bridge between human and wild, a figure of trust, grace, and mastery. Her partner for the afternoon, Tilikum, a towering presence in the water, circling with silent power. At over 12,000 pounds, he was both breathtaking and formidable. His dorsal fins sliced the surface like the blade of a ship, each slow movement a reminder of the strength that lay just beneath. Dawn knelt at the pool's edge, trailing her hand through the water as Tilikum surfaced, his breath erupting in a misty plume. She smiled, the warm, steady smile that had made her beloved by visitors and colleagues alike. For Dawn, this was more than work. It was devotional, calling built on trust, respect, and thousands of hours in the water. The audience roared with applause as Tilikum responded to her first cue, sending a sheet of water cascading over the front rows. It was all so perfect, so ordinary in its spectacle. No one could have guessed that beneath the glistening surface, the story of the day was twisting into something unthinkable, performance that would never reach its curtain call. The pool rippled like liquid glass as Dawn gave a subtle hand signal. Beneath her, Tilikum shifted course, his massive body rising in a slow, deliberate arc. The crowd erupted when he broke the surface, his sheer size dwarfing the woman beside him. Droplets rained down like glitter beneath the Florida sun. To the untrained eye, it was magic and effortless bond between human and predator. But those who knew Orcas understood there was always a line unseen, yet ever present between trust and instinct. Dawn had built her entire career walking that line. She leaned forward, touching Tilikum's rostrum with the ease of someone who knew. His every breath answered with a thunderous exhale, mist clouding the air before sliding back beneath the surface. His black and white form moved with impossible grace for something so immense, a living paradox of beauty and danger. "Good boy," Dawn murmured, too softly for the crowd to hear. This was their private language, subtle cues, fleeting glances. A connection forged through years of repetition and reliance. But even in moments like this, she never forgot the truth. He was not a pet, he was not tame. He was the ocean's raw power contained in flesh and bone, the mind that remembered, calculated, and decided on its own terms. The show continued. Dawn guided Tilikum through a series of maneuver-style slaps that sent waves crashing into the front rows, spy hops, where he rose to eye the audience, breaches that drew gasps and camera flashes. The atmosphere was electric. Every cue answered. Every trick flawless. Still, a few seasoned trainers watching from the sidelines noticed something unusual. His circles were tighter, his movements a shade too abrupt. Not alarming yet, but different. The crowd, of course, saw only wonder. Why wouldn't they? From their seats, it was a dream, the fantasy of harmony between man and beast. No one felt the subtle change in the water's rhythm. No one but Dawn. Stay with me, because this perfect image is about to fracture. What happens next will not only change the lives of everyone in that stadium. It will forever alter the way we see these magnificent predators. The applause echoed against the stadium walls, the water shimmering like sapphire under the midday sun. Dawn stood at the pool's edge, one hand raised in a silent cue. Neither Tilikum spiraled in deliberate circles, his tall dorsal fin curved from years in captivity, cutting the surface before sinking again. Hypnotic, but with an edge. There was a tightening in his movements, focus, a pull at the edge of instinct. Dawn sensed it. It wasn't fear. Fear had no place here. Fear could cost a trainer more than their life. It was awareness. The sharpened instinct that told her the space between them had shifted. She had felt it before with other whales and energy change, like the subtle drop in pressure before a storm. She crouched, offering a visual cue. Tilikum responded, but slower this time. He lifted his massive head higher than usual, spraying a warm mist across her cheek in the cool February air. Good, she murmured, her tone calm though. Her eyes studied him closely. His gaze locked onto hers dark, unblinking, measuring something unseen. From the stands, families laughed, oblivious to the silent conversation unfolding at the water's edge. Children reached toward the splashes. Parents lifted cameras, capturing what they believed was just another perfect show. But from the trainer's platform, the details told another story. The way Tilikum lingered at the edge, sharp flick of his tail before settling. The slight hesitation in cues he normally executed without thought at the side pool. A fellow trainer shifted uneasily, exchanging a glance with another. They recognized the sign's subtle deviations invisible to anyone but those fluent in the language of Orcas. Dawn pressed forward, it's not out of denial, but belief. 15 years of trust could not vanish over a change in mood. She gave another signal. Tilikum responded with a shallow dive, resurfacing directly in front of her. For a moment, their eyes locked. The stadium, the noise, the sunlight, all of it seemed to fall away. In that fragile silence, it was just her and him. She thought she could almost feel the weight of his thoughts, the pull of his intent. She smiled, steady and practiced, but inside a whisper stirred. Something is shifting. In less than a minute, that whisper would become a scream. The crowd cheered as Dawn lowered herself at the pool's edge, her boots brushing the water. Tilikum floated motionless before her, only the slow rise and fall of his breath breaking. The stillness. Sunlight danced on his sleek body, every curve of black and white etched like sculpture from the sea itself. She extended her hand. A cue they had performed hundreds of times. Tilikum rose, his rostrum breaking the surface. She leaned in, brushing her hand against him with a smile. And then it happened. The shift from calm to chaos was instant. In a single explosive motion, Tilikum lunged, his jaws clamping down on her. Arm in wetsuit. The water erupted in foam as the 12,000-pound orca twisted, dragging her down in one unstoppable surge into the depths. Gasps and screams tore from the stands. At first, some still believed it was part of the Showa daring dive, an underwater stunt. But the sharp, panicked cries of the other trainers shattered that illusion. Whistles pierced the air. Arms signaled frantically, but the black and white giant had already vanished beneath the surface. Dawn with him. Below, the scene dissolved into bubbles and violence. Dawn twisted, fighting against his grip, but Tilikum's power was unyielding. Her lungs burned as he propelled her deeper, the light above shrinking into a distant blur. Kicked hard, straining for the surface. But every desperate rise was countered by another violent drag down. On the platform, trainers scrambled with nets, poles, and emergency lines. The pool that moments ago shimmered with grace now churned with violence. Every splash, thunderous and erratic. Seconds stretched into eternity. Tilikum surfaced briefly, his massive head breaking through the water. Dawn was nowhere to be seen. A horrified murmur swept the stands. Panic rippled through the crowd, parents clutching children, some rushing for exits, others frozen, staring at the chaos. This was no show. It was beneath the restless surface. Dawn fought on, her body strained against the force of a predator whose instincts ran deeper than memory. She clawed at the water, reaching for the surface as her chest screamed for air. For a heartbeat, his grip slackened, and she broke upward, light swelling closer. She reached for it, lips parting only. For a shadow to sweep from below. With a violent surge, Tilikum struck again. His tail flared, his body twisted, wrenching her downward into darkness. The water spun, green, blue, then black, her world a vortex of motion and pain. On the surface, trainers shouted commands, their whistles shrill, nets slapping against the pool. But nothing bridged the gap between human hands and the raw mass of muscle and instinct that held her. Dawn's limbs grew heavy, her vision blurred, edges darkening. Still, she kicked. Still, she fought. Of connection, she clung to the hope it could reach him even now. But Tilikum's eyes, ancient and unblinking, held no recognition. Only the cold, steady focus of an apex predator. Her lungs screamed. Her body begged her to breathe, to inhale even exeven. If it meant swallowing the sea, her final desperate thrust toward the fading light was met with another surge of brute force, dragging her back into shadow. The line between trust and survival had been crossed. And in this battle, there was no room for both. Above the water, stilled for a heartbeat, as if the pool itself held its breath. Then it erupted once more, foam, black fin, and thrashing limbs breaking the surface before falling silent. Trainers froze mid-command, whistles limp at their lips. The crowd's roar had long since withered into fractured murmurs. The kind that creep into a room when no one dares name the truth. From the upper rows, the water looked deceptively calm, a perfect blue mirror under the Florida sun. But at the center, it darkened, swirling faintly with a crimson thread, fragile ribbons dissolving into the depths. Tilikum surfaced, his immense frame breaking the stillness with a low, resonant breath. Beneath him, Dawn's body swayed with his motion still tethered, still out of reach. Dawn. A trainer cried, voice cracking as he leaned dangerously close to the edge. Another gestured frantically toward the gates. But Tilikum did not turn. He dipped again, carrying her down. The crowd understood now. Gasps gave way to suffocating silence, as if the stadium itself had been robbed of air. Parents clutched their children, shielding them from the sight they themselves could not look away from. A few cameras kept rolling, their mechanical whir, a haunting reminder that once tragedy is captured, it can never be undone. Minutes stretched like lifetimes. The trainers still shouted, but their voices carried the weight of resignation. This was no longer rescue, it was aftermath. The pool, once a stage of spectacle, had become a grave. When Tilikum surfaced again, he hovered in eerie stillness, as if listening to a rhythm only he could hear. The trainer's command softened, not from surrender, but from the aching recognition that some lines once crossed can never be retraced. The show was over, and the silence it left would echo far beyond SeaWorld's walls. In the hours that followed, SeaWorld Orlando no longer felt like a theme park. The familiar scent of salt and sunscreen was replaced by something heavier, the weight of grief clinging. To every corner, the bleachers sat empty, their seats still damp from the splashes of a show that would never end. Tilikum was moved to a back holding pool, away from public view. There, he floated slowly in circles, no music, no applause, only the hiss of filtered water and the hum of machinery. Some said he seemed restless, Others said calm. No one could say what lingered in his mind. The trainers gathered in a small break room, wetsuits still dripping, faces pale, voices hushed. They replayed every moment, searching for an answer that would not come. Some stared at the floor, others into nothing. Their expressions caught between disbelief and exhaustion. By evening, news crews crowded the gates. Helicopters thundered overhead as the story spread across the globe. Headlines framed it as both tragedy and warning, a reminder that even in captivity, the ocean's predators remain what they are. Don's family arrived quietly, shielded from the cameras. They did not speak to reporters. Instead, they were led to a private room lined with photographs, Don smiling beside the very creature that had taken her life. That night, the stadium lights stayed dark. The pool lay still, hiding the chaos of hours before. For the first time in years, SeaWorld closed its doors early. And though it would open again, nothing inside its walls would ever feel the same. The death of Don Brancheau marked one of the darkest days in SeaWorld's history. More than the loss of a respected trainer, it shattered an illusion that these apex predators could be molded into performers. Their wild instincts muted by trust and training, Tilikum's final act proved, a truth too many had ignored. An orca remains a predator, even in a tank. In the months that followed, SeaWorld ended all water-based orca shows. Safety measures were added, but too many. It felt like answers to a question that should have been asked long before Don stepped onto that platform. Tilikum spent the rest of his life in isolation, a living reminder of the risks that come when humans cross nature's boundaries. This story is not only about tragedy, it is a warning. A line exists between humans and the wild. Cross it, and the outcome is never guaranteed. Dawn knew the risks, and she faced them with grace. But even the strongest bond cannot erase instinct. If this story moved you, stay with us for more true accounts that reveal the raw power of nature. And don't forget to subscribe, because these are stories the world must never forget.